the sea is 7 miles away. The shapes and shadows of a great city's history have been reflected in these waters, and their destinies linked inseparably for 1,000 years. The river brings the life and freedom of the sea right up into the heart of this city, the maritime capital of the west of England. These are the men and women who laid the foundations of our city. They set up monuments hoping to be remembered and gave us a living record of the growth and flowering of England. As early as the 12th century, they won an independent charter and established their civic corporation. This civic life, developing through the centuries, brought wealth and power. They built out of their prosperity castles, churches, and schools to the greater glory of God and of their city of Bristol. They and those who followed built far better than they knew. They built for us, the present Bristolians, an historic city representing the best in English tradition. Each generation added something of the spirit of his age. In the reign of Queen Anne, the largest square in England was laid out, dominated by the statue of William III. And Bristol was honored in England. Her Lord Mayor, with the dignity of his own coach, was held second only to the Lord Mayor of London. Saints and poets, pirates and smugglers have all walked these cobbled streets and left us something of their story. The waterfront is a bright linking thread through the centuries. It has been the gateway not only to the sea and the people overseas eager to buy and sell, but to people inland also. As England grew in power and importance, so did Bristol. It became the center for all the wealth and enterprise of the West Country. And to express their pride in their expanding city, her merchants built like princes in a princely age. A 1,000 years of communal life, crowded and colorful. As well as splendor, 1,000 years leaves squalor. We have inherited our share of the waste and residue of the past, along with its glories. But the bombs which fell upon the city brought more scars in one night than did centuries of time. But what neither they nor time could destroy, the spirit of our city, flourishes even among the ruins.
Well, there it is. The city the Bristolians built, old and new, past and present. As a businessman, I'm not so interested in history in the past. I see ours as a great modern city, the commercial capital of the West Country. A stranger might find the tempo of life here easygoing. The air is mild, the voices are soft. We have been here too long to get flustered about everyday living. But nearly 500,000 people wake up in this city every morning and start its vigorous old pulse beating. And when the wheels of industry gather speed, the tempo is lively enough. For this city is no museum piece of past history, far from it. It is one of the most important industrial towns in Britain with a remarkable range of activities. Many hundred varieties of goods, from aeroplanes to paper bags, are registered at our Chamber of Commerce. This versatility has carried safely through slump and adversity The famous old guarantee, shipshape and Bristol fashion. But the city's greatness is still maintained by its overseas trade. When this grew too much for the old docks to handle, the corporation developed a new port where the Avon flows into the sea. Here they constructed a fine modern docks with large granaries and warehouses. To Avonmouth, from all parts of the world, come food and raw materials for the whole of Britain. Tobacco, cocoa and rum, first brought here as strange new commodities by the merchant adventurers. Timber from the Baltic, grain, petroleum, oil, the cargoes of 500,000 tons of shipping. Many raw materials are still unloaded right in the heart of the city. Wines and sherry, for example, have been coming from the continent since the Middle Ages, and their blending and bottling is an ancient trade here. The story of many of our main occupations began in exploration and colonial development. The opening up of the Americas brought us tobacco and established the cigarette industry here. Early trade with Africa and the Indies brought cocoa and sugar for the confectionery trade. Newfoundland paper made us an important printing and publishing town. But thousands of Bristolians are employed in the industries of our own machine age, light engineering of all kinds, and the manufacture of aeroplanes and motor vehicles. Industry has a natural outlet here. Our geographical position makes us an ideal center for distribution. Today, the network of modern communications developed by the city have strengthened these advantages. This covered goods yard is the largest in the world, and the excellent new high roads are well equipped for the heaviest of traffic. The airport, run by the city corporation, is a fourth arm for the speedy transport of passengers and freight.
Sturdy present, romantic past, both are here. But what sort of place is this for young people to grow up in? Ours is a town fortunate in its surroundings. We have room enough to play. Apart from the spacious downs, the corporation have acquired many surrounding parklands and estates for the city's green belt. And not least of their attractions are the animals in the Clifton Zoo. Space and fresh air and the freedom of our own countryside, as much our heritage as the city's spires and historic past. But our city is also a richly endowed centre of learning. The schools, the museums, the art galleries, the university are in a lively tradition. Scholarship started here by St. Augustine when much of Europe was in feudal darkness. This is a town with a great taste for music and the arts. In particular, the theatre has always flourished. The actors of the Old Vic hold the stage at the Theatre Royal that knew Sheridan, Sarah Siddons, and many other great ones of the past. This theatre first opened more than 200 years ago. Its future today is safeguarded by having the City Corporation as its patron. At night, ours is like any other great city, relaxed and taking its leisure. But when the last footstep has died away, the old stones remember a continuity of pleasant and civilized living for more than 1,000 years.
From about where Neptune now stands, John Cabot sailed and discovered my country, America. That was 500 years ago. Today, the pioneers of Bristol have turned to research in aviation. The Brabazon up there is just a modern version of those brave little sailing ships that once opened up the trade routes of the world. And still in the way of pioneering, this city encouraged John Macadam to make the first tarmac road, while other Bristolians built the Great Western, the first steamship to sail to New York. And nearer our time, from Bristol came Frieze Greene, pioneer of the moving picture. Yes, pioneering and adventure are certainly part of the makeup of this old town.
We've given more than inventors and adventurers to the world. Great moral leaders have been among us too. Reformers of the caliber of John Wesley, the philanthropist Colston, and statesmen like Edmund Burke. Even today, our city council hold a church service before each meeting to ask for blessing and guidance in their work. For in our history, it's not only the battles and the barons of which we are proud, it's the strong tradition of public service that has always been a living force. The Bristol Corporation is next only to the City of London in the number and antiquity of their swords of state and city regalia. Perhaps the men and women who make up the council do not govern in such pomp and circumstance as the wealthy merchants who ruled in bygone days, but their duties are far more complex and demanding. Everything which touches our public life is the concern of the council, from problems of a national significance down to the smallest local detail. The councillors sitting in session may seem rather remote from the army of public servants who are encountered daily at their work in the city, but the decisions they make in their various committees help to keep the city safe, clean, and beautiful. They are working for the city just as the road sweeper, the sewerman, the gardener, and all the others. In a city as old as ours, there must inevitably be bad legacies from the past. Factories crowding out houses that are themselves worn out and inadequate. The greatest responsibility the council has today is the replanning and rebuilding of the city. The bad must be replaced and the future taken into account. We've made a start. We've extended our boundaries and laid the foundations for the new communities. Many houses have been built. Our record is one of the best in the country. But many, many more are still needed. And near the homes must be all the civil amenities for good living. We are building schools as modern in design as the newest aeroplane. But the council is responsible for much more than bricks and mortar. The name City Fathers is no obsolete survival from the past. We have to earn it every day. We've been pioneers in the social services too. Hundreds of mothers and babies use the child welfare clinics every day. The older children's health is guarded by the school medical services. And the corporation maintain many nursery schools and day nurseries in and around Bristol. During 1 year, 500,000 adults and children use these facilities, which are constantly expanding. The pioneers who left here to settle in America founded more than 30 new Bristols. We are rebuilding our own city in the hope that future generations will find pleasure in our achievement as we find pleasure in the old heart of the city.
Bristol grows and changes its pattern, but its spirit remains unchanged. The faithful old clocks continue to mark the time that has dealt so kindly here. And the river, unaware of time, brings the world to our doorstep as it has always done, renewing and refreshing the city that is as old and yet as young as England herself.